Hi everyone! Thank you guys so much for coming to Harmony of Music and Gameplay, the making and revival of Remix Rumble. My name's Katie and I'm the community strategist for TFT. I have to move here. And I'll pass it off to Witty and Christina to introduce themselves and talk about what they work on for Remix Rumble. Christina.
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Christina. I'm a product manager on TFT, head of our events and game modes in TFT. And so for Remix Rumble, I'm the product lead for all set revivals. So yeah, working on that.
And I'm Wittrock. I also go by Witty. I'm a principal game designer. I have led many sets, including Remix Rumble.
Yeah, and then to start it off, we'll chat about Remix Rumble, and it is personally my favorite set of all time, but best set ever. So yeah, Witty will walk us through how Remix Rumble came together, and then later on Christina will chat about how we bring sets back through revivals. So let's just dive right into it. Yeah, so Witty, when did the team start working on Remix Rumble? And I guess this is also kind of a question on like how early in advance do we work on sets in general?
Yeah, so Remix Rumble, we started working on it about a year, maybe a little bit more before it launched. We kind of had this idea that we had had for a long time about a music set bringing kind of the League band universes together. And yeah, I don't know, it was slightly longer than some of our set development just because of how complicated it was to do all of the music integration. We were also trying to land with around the release of Heartsteel. But yeah, it was a really fun set to work on.
And how does the idea of having a music set even come together?
Yeah, so first we started with those bands, right? It's the obvious thing to do: Pentakill, True Damage, KDA. And we'd kind of always had the question since I think the first time someone pitched a music set was like set 4. So it had been like a long time, but every time we sat down and tried to build it out, it was not big enough. We just didn't have enough like characters and enough like resources to really build it out. But we started to realize, both looking at different like skin lines and different characters, how we could kind of make things work in a different way, right? This is taking, you know, some skins that were sort of related to something that seemed like it could be punk, or could be like we had our sort of goth emo band, and then we put some effort into various like new characters and new skins.
Yeah, and I think what really draws a lot of players to Remix Rumble is the TFT first champions that we have, like Jazz Bard and Hyperpop Lulu. For our audience here, raise your hand if you did play Remix Rumble first time around. Okay, the majority of you. Okay, that totally makes sense. But yeah, so what is it like creating these TFT exclusive champions?
Yeah, this is something we've started to do more and more, but Set 10 was the first like really big effort into a lot of custom skins. And a lot of that was honestly just for practical reasons. You know, trying to fill out that full roster, not only did we just need more like musically themed characters, but we had some specific gameplay problems we needed to solve. Like, we wanted KDA to be this big comp that you could play every game, and if you take the KDA characters and look at them and go, who's the tank? You go, nobody? So that's why we kind of developed the super fans for KDA and to fill out some other slots in the other bands. And then we just, I don't know, had some fun ideas. A lot of people on the team are fans of hyperpop as a genre, so that's why we went for Lulu and Ziggs as kind of this hyperpop duo, and built out kind of different parts of the roster.
For sure. And then I think those are super cool inclusions into the set, but what is something that was really cool that ultimately didn't make into the set? So some behind-the-scenes thoughts for our audience here.
Yeah, there's always lots of stuff that doesn't make it into sets, but I think my favorite one that would be a difficult idea to revisit, so I'll kind of talk about it here, is we early on had what we called the Akali problem, and I see Akali cosplay in the audience, which is very cool. But we had the Akali problem, right? Of like, of course she needs to be both in true damage and KDA. And at the time, one of the ideas was, oh, what if Akali isn't just in true damage and KDA, but is in every band? So we thought about making literally like 11 Akalis and just saying like Akali is now just the perfect musician, is a master at every genre. And we ended up not doing that for other gameplay reasons. But that was a fun idea that I wish we'd found a way to do.
Yeah, League of Akalis, perhaps. And then, for Remix Rumble, the headliner mechanic is something that we are revisiting from before, from Chosen. So what is it like bringing back a old mechanic that players have seen before, but making it something new, but also thematically resonant?
Yeah. So, at this point, we're 14 sets into TFT. And so every time we have kind of new ideas for mechanics, it usually ends up being similar to something else that we've done before. Headliner specifically was, we had a different mechanic that was somewhat similar that I actually won't spoil because we might try to do a version of it. But roughly it was a similar idea of like, bands have their lead singers, they have whatever like instrumental piece might be highlighted. And so that seemed like a really obvious like starting point of like, who is the lead of the band? And then as that kind of initial idea didn't quite pan out, we looked back at the Chosen mechanic from set 4, which we still really like. Chosen can be polarizing, but I think the mechanic is a lot of fun. And we said, okay, let's do Chosen. Headliner is a really obvious kind of new thematic wrapper to apply to it, and as we got kind of all the art assets and different pieces in, it was all kind of coming together. But a thing we always want to do is just not straight up bring it back exactly as it was. So Headliner, we both made a lot of like systems changes that we thought would be helpful, right? This is the ability to still see headliners even if you already own one, which was not true in set 4. Those like individual headliner effects, right? It's not just generic stats, but having like custom ways that we can hook into champion spells and make them more interesting. And then just honestly, as we started playtesting it again, we were like, yeah, Chosen was pretty fun, and we're happy to kind of play with this again for the set.
Yeah, I feel like when you look online, the Chosen mechanic seems like people either really love it or hate it. So I mean, we can take like an audience survey right now, like raise your hand if you like Chosen. Okay, what about Headliner? Okay, raise your hand if you know the difference between Chosen and Headliner.
So maybe you played the revival and saw the differences.
Yeah, okay, the difference was that the Headliner, for each champion, you had a unique...
Yeah, the custom headliner.
Like a custom change to your spell. So it feels a little extra special. Okay, last question before we move on to revivals. Can you tell us a fun story that happened with the development of Remix Rumble?
Yeah, this is less a specific story, but more a repeating story that was very different from any other set development, which was, we had that, what we ended up calling the music remix system pretty early on. But the challenge was, how do we play test it? And particularly, we hadn't recorded any of the music. And that system is so, very custom. We had lots of composers from a lot of different genres. And so we had to figure out ways to kind of hack things together, have temporary tracks that didn't sound good. So we were playing the game with this thing where well, we know this doesn't sound very good. And there was also, bugs that we had to fix, right? Like the wrong track playing at the wrong time or different mixes. We'd actually literally come out of we'd go into a playtest, we'd say, okay, everyone have your headphones on, everyone listen, give feedback on the music. And then we would need to come out of it and we would need to listen to other people's music to figure out, oh, I was hearing this other player was hearing this, oh, there's a bug, it's messed up, whatever. So it was just kind of a unique game development challenge that I've never gotten to experience before, of just like that much, like the audio matters so much that we had to really, I don't know, spend a lot of time and a lot of funny conversations about like, is that a bug? Is that a temporary track? Is that the actual track? Oh, that doesn't actually sound very good. There's a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, I think the reality of making a set so early in advance is that a lot of the polishing touches that players come to really enjoy really doesn't get added in until like the very end. So when we're actually playtesting, like you can't really see it. But thank you, Witty, and we'll go on to chat a bit about revivals. And as some of you might know, Remix Rumble is coming back as our next revival. It is out live on PBE now, and it will be live on May 14th. But let's get into it with Christina. Remix Rumble is a particularly complex set with music and gameplay. As our 4th revival so far, Christina, as our person who does revivals, can you explain to us how TFT approaches revivals as a whole, and what is our goals with revivals?
Yeah, so when it comes to revivals, we actually start with thinking, what is TFT's game philosophy as a whole? And since TFT wants to be a forever game, we want players to always be able to come back in any set. Revivals fit like very naturally in that strategy because it does 2 things for us. It, 1, adds novelty into TFT, and 2, it also delivers nostalgia. So when you think about novelty, for those that have played TFT for a long time, we're doing 3 sets a year now. It's 1 set every 4 months, but we know that players, they still feel like a lot of y'all want more novelty in between sets. And so that's why we started doing revivals as limited time modes, because we noticed that sometimes players, when they're done with their rank climb or they're just kind of done with the set, they feel like they've played everything they can. We want revivals to be that additional mode that they can play, and they're definitely not positioned as a competitive mode. That's why you'll see us experiment a lot, sometimes successfully and sometimes like less successfully, with systems changes and revivals, mostly just to like push the boundaries, make it feel like different from standard TFT. And then when it comes to delivering nostalgia, I think this is one of my personal favorite reasons I love revivals. When we started, our first revival was Galaxy's Return to the Stars. We revived 3.5. That was one of my favorite sets. I remember like, that was like a COVID set, and I remember spending like so many hours playing with my friends. This is when I was first learning TFT the most, and I like one-tricked Brawler Blaster Jinx. I don't know if any of y'all remember that comp. Until I learned it, that was like super fun for me. So us reviving it, it's like those memories come flooding back. I remember also Star Guardian, like Syndra reroll. Back then, Winnie and I were talking about this before. I was like, remember back then, like Star Guardian Syndra reroll, Seraph's Embrace, today blue buff, double tier. It actually used to make Seraphs for the OG knowers, and you could stack them. So it was like infinite casting Syndra, just deleting backlines. Anyways, I was like, oh, what a fun time. But when we revive revivals, it's the nostalgia and adding augments, modernizing systems. It basically is a way for even like newer players and OG, like veteran players, to enjoy older content, but with like a new and modern twist. So those are kind of the goals and how we think about revivals.
Yeah, and speaking of nostalgia, I think a lot of longtime TFT players, including myself, are wondering, would we ever bring back Set 1? Raise your hand if you played Set 1. Oh my gosh, a lot of people, holy. Yeah, so
this one is a hot topic. We would love to revive Set 1. We were talking about this before too. I'll let Woody chime in as well, but Set 1 was so different. The board was different. The units, the traits, like Phantom existed. You could curse a unit to 100 HP. We would not print these traits in modern sets. Players would get so mad. But these are the cool things. It's like, haha, it's back, guys. Everyone, check it out. We want to do it. We understand how important it would be for players, so we want to do it when we have the time to like invest enough resources, like design, art, everything, and make it a really big moment. So it's not happening very, very soon, but something we'd be excited about, yeah.
Yeah, I want us to revive Set 1 at some point, for sure.
I want to play it so badly.
I know. It's going to be the conflict of, like, is it a classic? Do we use the old board? We stray away from, like, modern revivals where we're updating everything to modern systems. We just use the old item recipes, the old board size. We'll see. That's pretty controversial. We'd have to think more about it.
I would like to play with Guardian Angel again, but probably won't happen. But speaking of that, like, how do we then choose which set we bring back?
So for set revivals, Remix Rumble is going to be our 4th set revival now. It's actually very much more an art than a science. So we look at a lot of factors. I'll talk about 3 of them. The first one is thematic set differentiation. So if its main set, currently it's Cyber City, Remix Rumble is a music set, Cyber City is more about like more futuristic. Those thematically are differentiated. So that makes a lot of sense, but we wouldn't, for example, during set 13 Into the Arcane, revive set 6 Gizmos and Gadgets. Both were like arcane-based sets. A second factor is set popularity. It's not the only factor because, of course, we revived Dawn of Heroes, which may have not been like one of the most popular sets, but it's very interesting from a gameplay perspective for players. But we are always listening. That's why people were surprised. We're reviving Remix Rumble so early, but we know how much players have been wanting to play this again, and we figured we don't have to wait like years to bring it back. It is super hype and really fun to get players to experience it again. So set popularity is a big factor. It's not the only factor. And then lastly, we think about gameplay differentiation. This is all like relative to the main set that's live at the time. So for example, during Remix Rumble, when we revived Galaxies, we wouldn't have necessarily most likely revived something like Fates with Chosen mechanic. It's just from a gameplay perspective, like much more similar and probably less interesting and novel for players who want to play something different from the main set.
Any spoilers on the next set revival?
No, I'm not allowed to.
Yeah. You got me. Okay, so what is it like bringing back Remix Rumble? Are there any particular challenges that's unique to this revival, considering we also have to incorporate elements of the current set, Cyber City?
So for revivals in general, our philosophy has been to stay as true to the core set mechanic, traits, champions, and then modernize through like systems, changes, and updates. So for us, Remix Rumble is actually the most modern set that we revived. All the sets we revived so far didn't even have augments in them. So this process was like much easier. It was just a much smoother process because the systems naturally lend themselves to the modern way that TFT is being played. A big part of reviving Remix Rumble was like we knew because music is so iconic to the original set, we want to do something with music. And so we added new what we call duet augments. They're basically augments where if you play 2 traits together, we changed the music remix a bit, and it also, of course, gives you more gameplay power. So one example, like speaking of Witty's like crazy, and we didn't even know this actually, that they had this idea of like Akali in every single band. There is like Rap Queen Akali, which is a new augment for the revival, and Akali, when she casts, she gives you the bonuses for both true damage and KDA, so you know the 2 bands she's a part of. Definitely, again, not as ambitious as the She's in Every Band, but those are like the types of things we want to do for sure. Something with the music system, and then the fun things about revivals, especially even with one so modern like Remix Rumble, is we did a huge artifact item update in set 11 in Inkborn Fables, and so that means a lot of the artifacts weren't originally around in Remix Rumble. So during playtests, I remember I saw they had like Maestro Jin with Silvermere Dawn. I was like, oh my gosh, is it over for all of us? And then we're like, oh wait, it doesn't work, haha, get wrecked. And so it's just fun to be like, people start cooking with the artifacts and we're like, dang, there's a lot of interesting combos that did not exist back in the day. And so those are the fun things to explore. And then lastly, I'll talk about, bugs. Y'all know bugs are a big part of TFT as well. There's just a lot of combinatorics and things, edge cases that sometimes we can't catch. So even think about modern augments like Fire Sale, where you can pull a 3-cost unit, from the board. With Headliner, that means you get, well, technically 8 gold, up to 8 gold for free, which is extremely broken for a silver augment. So we had to decide what to do with things like that for the revival.
I want to play Trenchcoat Alawi is my plan.
Oh yeah, we were cooking. We were like, what cool artifacts comps can we make?
I feel like every set I'm just getting traumatized by Trenchcoat, and then they finally nerfed it for this current set, and then when I play it, it sucks. It's fine. Okay. Q&A. Yeah, so lastly, bag size is something the team has definitely experimented on throughout different revivals. Can you share with us the process behind the different decisions?
So the goal of even having different bag sizes from the main set is for revivals, we want it to be an experience where if you're a churn TFT player or even if you just like naturally play TFT, there are so many iconic comps for a revival that we don't want players to be like, just because you're contested, you're unable to play. So we have always, ever since we started revivals, they've had expanded bags relative to live. I think we took it to like a crazy level in our Lunar New Year event when we did Revive 4.5 Face Festival of Beasts, and we did personal bags, which is basically each player. There's no shared pool. Everyone has their own individual pool, and we did not really love the result of that experiment. I think, sorry for those of you who played. I'm sure most of your games got terrorized by like Teemo, Sharpshooter, like Sivir reroll. Sorry about that. But I think it was a worthy experiment for us to try because we basically concluded never again. So we're back to expanded bags. We've kind of lowered the number for 4 and 5 costs because we don't want set revival meta to be a 3-star 4 cost, 3-star 5 cost fest. Like that's not really the point. That's something that you could do in Chonk's Treasure. That's not really for revivals. That's more so like revivals. You just want players who they saw this iconic comp. They really want to play it. It's a limited time event. How can they play it? Because at least one other person they're contested. In live, sometimes if it's a 3-cost reroll, it feels really bad. In a revival, it should theoretically be possible because we've expanded the bag sizes there. So that's kind of the goal there. We'll keep like tweaking different systems things. Ultimately, it goes back to our goals. We want to create like, it's not necessarily meant to be competitive. It has its own progression system, but not like ranked. We're not trying to burn players out. It's more so like for fun. There's progression goals and just enjoy the nostalgia in revivals.
Yeah, I think it's really nice that the team does have the space to be able to like learn and reiterate on each of these revivals because there's nothing like going in game thinking, oh, like I'm gonna play Teemo reroll, and then you tab and everybody's playing Teemo reroll.
It was a very crazy, surreal moment. I was like, dang, this lobby, okay, 7 people, let's go.
Who knew? Like that's what personal bag sizes do. All right, so thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on revivals. And I have to ask now, what are both of you most excited about for this revival? Witty, let's start with you.
Yeah, for me, it's gotta be the music system. I mean, every now and again, I still like look up various tracks on YouTube or Spotify or whatever as like, this is just like good music to listen to while I'm doing work or hanging out or whatever. But having gotten to playtest a few times and play a little bit on PBE recently, it's much different to actually like experience that in game. It's just very cool. You're like late game, you're doing some big roll down, you pivot to Jin, and then your music changes and you're in first and it's playing on the carousel. Like that whole experience I just really enjoy, and I like audio experiences in general. So I'm excited to jam some games again and kind of relive that experience.
What was your favorite comp to play during the OG Remix Rumble and then now the revival version?
Probably EDM was my favorite. I liked how EDM mixed with the different tracks, and I just like the transformation mechanic. Actually, one of the duet augments I'm very excited for, which is, correct me if I get this wrong, if you play disco EDM, the augment allows your disco ball to also transform into one of the EDM characters, which I just think is very, very silly. So I'm excited to play
Yeah,
on.
I think I saw like the playtest clips of it. So like if you have Lux and that's your chosen EDM, your disco balls, when your Lux ults, also Lux ults. So then you just...
So you see some crazy positioning. I mean, who knows if this is truly optimal, but I've seen like corner disco balls so that the Lux ults like hit the sides, but it's probably not optimal for disco. Like, we'll see.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. What about you, Christina?
For me, so in live, when the OG came out, I played a bunch of different comps. I think I always liked KDA, like Spellweaver, like very generic because I was being very try-hard. But for the revival, I'm like, on PB, I'm like, time to try to hard force Heartsteel. And then me and like, I've seen like a lot of my games, me and at least 1 to 3 other people are like playing for Heartsteel. And then I did play a game like a few days ago where I took Heartsteel and Trait Tracker. I was like, it's too lit. And then I could not, I was looking up Trait Tracker set 10 like comps and it's not there because it wasn't an augment, so that I couldn't cash it out. Anyway, so I'm just ready to like play Heartsteel and, you know, dominate the lobby if I actually manage to cash out, which I have not been able to. And most people in my lobby, all of us are griefing each other by playing it. So we'll see like how it goes in live because I'm less like sweaty for the revival than it is for live.
I do feel like you're an econ trait enjoyer because for Fates, you were also forcing fortune every game.
I mean, like, you know, well, not in live because I'm too try-hard. I'm like, oh, I need like high EV. But for, you know, revivals, I'm like, wait, let's just play.
Yeah, I think for me, I particularly enjoy playing 2-cost rerolls, so definitely Bard rerolls and Seraphine rerolls. I think super fans were just so easy to get early and then to slot it in. Yeah, even on live, like I'm a 2-cost enjoyer. Like if I can turn off my brain, press D. Oh, out for sure. I'm right now current set TF reroll. That's me. I enjoyed Jack's reroll back then. So, and then. Anything we can share with our audience here? Any hidden OP combos you've seen so far that they can take home and take against their opponents?
So actually, we've nerfed this in play tests, and then going into PvE. If you took, I was playing like Emotional Connection, which is the original emo trait augment, Annie 3, and I legit streaked to level 10 with like just a 3-star Annie. And then I was talking to, like, we were looking at the data on PB and we're like, this is by far the best augment in the entire game. What is this? So anyways, it's been heavily nerfed, but I'm like, oh, back then you could have, like, you know. Well, it's like Annie's still strong. We think Annie is super iconic. So I think those interesting reroll, there's still a ton of viable low-cost rerolls. And then I did see recently somebody from one of our team, they put like Silvermere Dawn on a Kali and like on KDA Kali. So when she goes to the back line, she just like stuns the carry and then like kills them. So it's quite good. I saw them just like completely beat like country reroll board just like that with like not that many upgrades. I was like, wait a second.
This is like the return of like the Diana assassin. She jumps in the back, CCs you, and then you're just dead. Yeah, okay, basically. Awesome.
I want to see Fishbone's Jin is probably at the top of my list.
Oh. Does it work? Like if Silvermere Dawn doesn't work, does Fishbone work?
It probably does. It's just whoever he's targeting.
It probably does because it's like based off of attacks. So like Jin's violins are attacks.
Yep.
That'll be very interesting.
Snipe the backline.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Okay. And then a question on the current set, flip-flopping a little bit. When you have the hack where you have to choose between the flat amount or split, what do you guys choose? I will say what I choose first. I always choose taking the flat amount. And I have seen so many games where no one chooses to split, so no one gets a big pool of money. But maybe that's like my ELO specific. I don't know.
I used to be a flat person, but then I noticed that everyone's scared to split. So I started splitting, and it's actually always paid off for me.
Yep, split every time, first rate.
Yeah, do we have like data, like internal data on like?
I'm sure it exists.
Okay, yeah, you heard it here first, folks. Always pick split.
I don't know about the data. This is how we think.
Yeah. And then lastly, to round out, what are your guys' favorite tacticians and boards? And I can start off first. I am personally a Prestige Chibi Cafe Cutie Gwyn enjoyer. What a mouthful. Oh my God.
Luxurious.
And I always go back to Heaven's Celestial Court because I think that's a beautiful arena.
For me, my favorite tactician, well, I love, like from a Little Legends perspective, I love Whisker. There's a green Whisker, the 2-star Whisker, not the 1-star or 3-star. Because like he goes like this, so I love that one.
Yeah. The 3-star gets a little
the 3-star, yeah. And then the 1-star's too demure for me. From Arena's perspective, I shamefully use the default arena.
Boo.
But there's some new arenas coming out. There is a new one coming out that I'm very looking forward to getting. So
but no spoilers.
Yeah, that'll be my new one.
Also, did you guys know whiskers is not actually a cat, but like a creature that inhibits the skin of a cat?
Wait, really? That makes me love it more.
No,
I didn't know
you
that.
can see like the eyes inside the mouth,
Oh.
like it's a creature inside a cat.
Right. Now I'm more in love.
Let's see. I've been using the project arena a little bit. That's just new and cool. I tend to go back to, I forget what they're called, but there's a set of 3 from Fates that are like, they were the battle pass ones that were kind of simple, but just like very clean, beautiful, like green grass, nice little pathway sort of thing. And then I do have a little legend that I'm obsessed with, which is Talker, and that's because one of Talker's emotes shoots lasers from his eyes, and not enough people use that emote. So if you ever play against me, I will walk up to you and I will spam lasers on you
That's
the entire
no one uses Talkers.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
All right. Next, we'll move on to Q&A. So I think we do have a mic set up there. If you guys, this is your opportunity to ask us any questions that we can answer gameplay-wise.
Oh, it's working.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Like, come on down, my friend.
This is your chance to ask questions for our game designer directly, so go for it.
So my question is about the music for the Remix Rumble. A lot of us loved the music, and kind of wondering like why it wasn't in the team planner so that we could listen to it in the lobby, other than breaking the code entirely.
That is a good question. And I think the practical answer is Team Planner was so early on and sort of being developed in parallel that we didn't even know how the system worked. I actually didn't mention, for a long time the system was not a remix system. It was just a roughly take the top comp you're playing or whatever and just play that song. But once it started to get complicated, it kind of diverged. So it's something I wish we would have been able to done. But sometimes there's just development practicalities.
Yeah, makes sense.
Thank you.
Hello. I was gonna ask, is there gameplay or team design reason why we don't show bag size within the UI, even though we show the percentage rates? Because I feel like high level wise, it's really important in high lows, and I have to constantly look it up.
I agree with this because every game I Google, I'm like, okay, this guy has all the 3 cost rerolls.
Yeah, this is something we've discussed a lot, and honestly something we still talk about sometimes. The core motivation is we do want players, especially higher level players, to be scouting, and we generally believe the more information that we start to push into a top level menu or a tab menu or anything like that, the less incentive you have to scout at all. And we like the behavior of when you scout, you don't necessarily, you might be scouting for one thing, but then you'll pick up on some other piece of information that you weren't explicitly searching for. I know this still causes a little bit of problems with a champion can be sitting in somebody's shop, and that's technically pulled them out of the pool. So there's some rough edges, but the high level answer is we like it when people scout, and we like it when people kind of, I don't want to say are surprised when they scout, but are oh, I'm gaining kind of incremental or incidental information when I scout.
Just to clarify,
Yeah.
I didn't mean a counter, oh, 13 Akali's out of pool. I meant just in general, oh.
Oh, the total number.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I will follow up on that because I think the answer to that is more just been we hadn't found an obvious place to stick the number, but in modern times with Team Planner or some other place in the game, we could probably, this is not a promise, but I will genuinely go and talk to some people and see, hey, can we stick that somewhere?
Yeah, I would personally also like to see it maybe in Team Planner, just because I do Google the flat number every time I'm playing a three cost reroll.
You gotta know
I feel your pain.
what you're counting against, especially since we keep changing it. So
yeah, is it 12? Is it 13? It changes set to set.
thank you.
Hi, just a quick question on if there are plans to implement a practice tool of any kind so we can find out if Silvermere Jin works before we put it in the game and lose our round against.
Yeah, that one has been a pretty firm no. And the core reason is that some of the fun of TFT is discovering certain combinations. What do all the 3-star 5 costs do? Set 10 was a good example of. I was happy how long we were able to kind of keep the secret of the 8-bit like cash out or the like triple tactician's crown Easter egg. Like all of those things, we kind of want those to be discovered by players, or maybe Leduc more likely. So yeah, that's kind of, we just kind of want to keep those things. And when it's more bug sort of stuff, like, is this just going to work? The answer is we should make it work, and we should fix our bugs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. All right, I don't know if any of you are sweaty enough to try this, but a big memory for me for Remix Rumble was open forwarding. Have you guys made changes to stop that, or is that on the menu again?
When you say open forwarding, just like preventing
selling your board to get to 8 as fast as possible to get the 4 costs.
No, I think that's core to TFT, so it's definitely still there.
Wait, are you talking about like everybody like open forwarding, so then it really results in like loss for both of them?
Okay, yeah. Because before it was a 50-50 depending on
because that is a modern, since we updated in more modern sets after Remix Rumble, where if both of you, because back in the day I remember it was 50-50 who wins combat.
It was like based on who visited the board. Or
something. But now it's both of y'all lose your streak, so it does hurt. Like open forwarding, that's why Heartsteel is more difficult to cash at higher levels now, because there's not a 50% chance that one of y'all actually maintains your lose streak. Like both of y'all will lose your lose streak.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Hello, I've been playing the Revival on the PB a lot. One of the first things I noticed when I started playing it was that everyone started with a golden item remover. And especially as you guys were talking about the new artifacts coming in, as you guys were talking about that interaction, say, with the KDA Akali, one thing that kind of comes to my mind is, like, what was kind of the motive behind specifically the golden item remover when it could potentially enable cases like detach Silvermere Dawn at the start of every round and then put it on your carry right before they cast?
Yeah, so for Golden Item Remover, you'll notice it actually in most of our, like all of our event modes. There's not one that doesn't have it. And the idea there is like thinking about the target audience again for set revivals, which is it's not meant to be the most competitive mode that makes the experience like better for players as they're like playing through. You thought you wanted these artifacts on this one unit, instead of selling your unit or wasting a remover, from live, or waiting until you get one if you're out of removers, you can just switch things as you can. It does create like pseudo sweatier moments, and if you want to sweat, you absolutely can in the revival. I do too. Sometimes where I'm like, I'm gonna put this item on in the last second and like constantly move. It does make it a more intense experience. So we don't mind if players want to do it that way. We found that usually a lot of players enjoy the ability, the ability to just move items around, have a lot of flexibility in their comps and their carries as the game progresses. So that sweaty lane is for sure open, but we'll just see. Not everyone uses it.
All right. Food Fight Tactics win.
Yeah.
Food Fight Tactics, I feel like we always joke about it, but apparently it doesn't do well in surveys. So if you guys want to see Food Fight Tactics, you have to, fill out those surveys that you get pop-ups in the client and actively vote for it.
Hi, my question's about bug fixing. And there was a specific type of bug that always irritated me, and it was sort of soft-locked infinite combat glitches where both people end up tying. And specifically the one that really irritated me was a few sets ago in Magic and Mayhem, where Morgana's bats would basically count as fake units and everyone would get tie broken and stuff. My question to you is, do you have like a safe net for that going forward? Units that create units are not going to do that going forward?
Yeah, so I will say we have a pretty good sense of the unfortunate part is there's different ways that can happen, which is why it keeps popping up on different units. But we believe we both have that isolated. Now, again, there could be a new way that pops up, so we'll see. And we have kind of a larger, we're not going to be able to ship it immediately because it breaks a bunch of other stuff that we need to also fix. But there's like a larger systemic way that we're planning on fixing that in the future.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just sorry. Those
that's the
those
worst.
soft blocks are like the most emotionally damaging things that can possibly.
Yeah, you're like, I won the fight.
I
Wait,
have
the
lost.
fight. What's
I have
happening?
lost because of the Morgana bug before, but I mean, I think the reality is that TFT is built on pretty old codes of League of Legends hex code, and it's pretty buggy.
Hey, I just want to say thanks for doing the panel, and just a question for all y'all. I just was wondering how you got your start at Riot, and then maybe you can elaborate and explain how you ended up on TFT.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe who wants to go?
Let's go with most
tenured.
tenured.
Most tenured.
I can go first. I've been at Riot for just over 11 years. I actually started in an entry-level QA position. I looked at, hey, what could I be qualified for at Riot? And that was the thing I applied for. And then I kind of worked my way on various League of Legends projects, moved into game design. I actually worked on the Summoner's Rift balance team and some preseason work a little bit. And then I was a big strategy game player, big Magic player especially. And then I got asked if I wanted to work on a League version of Auto Chess for a couple of months. And that was over 6 years ago. So still here, still working on TFT.
So for me, I am almost 2 years at Riot, and before I joined Riot, I was working at Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, kind of across all three of the properties, Activision Blizzard and King as well. So I pretty much joined Riot after I have some experience working on Hearthstone Battlegrounds and some of the other Blizzard titles, and I joined Riot to build out the events team, kind of shape event game modes just about 2 years ago. So, and TFT is my favorite game, so I'm very happy.
For me, I am pretty new to TFT. I've played TFT since beta, but I'm actually, I think, coming on 7 months on TFT. Before that, I was the Wild Rift community manager, and then before that, I was the Team Liquid strategy game player manager. So I signed all the TFT players and Hearthstone players to Team Liquid. And I would say my path comes a bit more from collegiate esports. I managed my university's League of Legends team, and then I worked at TESPA, which was Blizzard's collegiate program. And then through that, then I landed at Riot, and now I'm on TFT, which is also my favorite game. So it all works out.
Thank you, guys.
Hi, yeah, so I was curious about more about the music system for Remix Rumble, because I'm more of a casual player, so I spend most of my time playing TFT when I'm trying to relax. And the music is so good. I just listen to it at the gym sometimes, the Steve Aoki remix. Oh my God, it's so good. But I'm curious, you're saying the initial implementation of the music system was whatever trait you have, the music is playing. What are the intricacies besides obviously Jin adding a violin to the track? What are the intricacies of the music system? Because you said it's pretty complicated.
Yeah, so, and I'm not even going to be able to go into the a composer can talk about this better than I can, but they, I'm going to forget the number, but for however many genres existed, each one had it was a beat, a top level, and a melody. And some of them didn't have all three. Each of them has a priority system depending on both how many units of that trait you're playing and how large of a track it has. So we blend up to 3 different tracks at the same time. Every track was written to be able to be played simultaneously to each other or independently, right? If you're just playing one thing, you'll just kind of strongly hear that music. And then there's a few other bells and whistles in there as well. I believe at a certain point in the game, all of the tracks shift from their early game to their late game version. And honestly, there might even be other pieces of that. There's special features like Sona is not a track, Sona is a filter that she applies to the other tracks. So yeah, it was a really detailed system, and our music folks like knocked it out of the park. It's very cool.
And I'll shout out our engineering team
Yes,
because when we were reviving it, we were like, okay, how do we add a third, like an additional layer on top of all these layers for the duet augments? And our engineers were like, oh, I looked at the code. Actually, it was very elegantly written. It's quite easy. We just like re-implemented.
And I'll also plug our music team because now Teamfight Tactics has its own Spotify page, so you can listen to your favorite Teamfight Tactics tracks.
Yeah,
whenever you like.
And we were talking, Woody and I were talking about this actually, and Katie, we were like, why didn't we play the Steve Aoki remix while everyone was walking in? That would have been so hype.
Think of it.
No, as someone who enjoys who doesn't mute the soundtrack when playing video games, I know a lot of people just have their own Spotify going on. Having it on, I'm just like, oh, it's just such a pleasure to listen to. But yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. A certain TFT developer has said that the sets and the mechanics kind of land on this spectrum of like competitive and more casual or random. Where do you think you fall on that spectrum, or your preference, and do you think it affects the sets that you lead?
You start.
I go first. I definitely play to win, and I play somewhat competitively, and I strongly prefer to play at the beginning of a set, but I also like to kind of cook, especially since I've usually been playing the set in development. I don't like to just like follow whatever the initial like meta guides are. I'm not super good though, and so I was.
Wait, we have to know your rank now. Like you have to share your rank.
I can get to like Emerald Diamond range.
You heard it here.
I fail
You're
the
Emerald,
Masters.
you can be a game designer.
I fail the Masters push every time, and I don't quite have the. I used to have a lot of competitive spirit for League, but TFT, you work on the game for years and years. I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna go home every night and sweat TFT, unfortunately, but I try to play to win.
I would say I'm probably a pretty sweaty competitive player, even though I'm like typically master in TFT, but I'll do that like the solo and plus double up master because it's fun.
Yeah.
And then I have to play all our event modes, but I make our more less competitive modes. But I think to me, even as like a more sweaty player, it's like when I'm done with my rank climb, I'm just kind of like, I want to mess around in the revivals or in our game modes. And so like play chunks, like play all the like limited time game modes. I have a lot of fun doing that. But I probably am quite sweaty, and I like to play to win. Yeah.
Yeah, I also like to play. I play to win. Like I don't like to. I definitively play to win, and when I don't, I'm very mad about it. I try to hit Masters every set. I think the first set I hit Masters, I was playing Hellion Reroll, so I don't necessarily know if that's like a skill check or like I'm just re-rolling. But I have noticed that I play slightly less TFT ever since joining the team. There's something to be said about like you go to work, I play test a bunch, I come home, I'm like, Maybe it's a double uptime. Yeah, so I did not hit Masters last set, and I think I'm currently Emerald, but maybe I'll hit Masters this set. I probably will.
Nice.
I like it.
I wanted to quickly, you had a second part of that question, which was how does that affect kind of game design or game development philosophy? For me, the way I think about this is TFT, like every game, ultimately is meant to be fun. So we need to make sure that we're like pushing like novel things, unique experiences, those like really high moments. That's really critical. However, I don't think that stuff comes at the cost of the game being very, very competitive. I still, to this day, I said this early on, I'll keep saying it, I think TFT is incredibly skill testing. If you want to be really good at TFT, I don't think players have like reached the skill ceiling of what the game is, and I'm continually impressed but not surprised at how much better players get every set. And so we want to respect that mastery, right? We want the game to be a game that's like, oh, it's not just once you're like pretty good at the game, now it's just a bunch of like coin flips and luck. We want the game to be, yeah, you can invest a lot of time and a ton of practice into it and really show off your skills. And I want to say that that's kind of borne out in and we have some consistent tournament winners. There's very clear, sort of goats of TFT, and I think that's really important for the game.
Yeah, I think even when you watch like the esports scene and how it's evolved, like I think back in like set 4 or set 3, like Sox was innovative because he played flexibly, and now like if you a casual player in like Plaid, you're not playing flexibly, like what are you doing, kind of. So like it's crazy to see just like the evolution of like what's considered good TFT being played is.
Yeah, and to your point, like despite how we are as players, I think the main thing is like we acknowledge there's so many different types of players out there. That's why we create so many experiences. Like even the main set, their main set has the biggest problem. They need to serve like competitive players, more casual players, like mid-core players. And for event modes, we get to hyper serve like the not only competitively motivated players, because of course there's a ton of players we see in our data that they play a ton of ranked and then they also love to play the event modes. So it's like, what are the reasons why a competitive player may want something else to play in TFT? We think about all of those experiences when we make like new content for players. Like that's how we choose to invest in things. We don't only want to make things for competitive players or only for casual. We want to do it for the player base that would love TFT.
And then on publishing's end, like when we put out marketing materials or like social posts, we have to think about like, is this resonant to our players not only across different skill levels, but also across all the different regions that we serve. And there is where we, leverage the different influencers we have and pro players and how we can get information out to players better.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question about design space and creativity for revivals and new sets. So for revivals, you have constraints of what the existing set was. How much design space do you have and creativity to make something new or different out of it? And for new sets, how much more design space do you think is left? And are you concerned, or do you have a lot more ideas?
I'll start with revivals. So with revivals currently, our philosophy has been to mainly stay true to the original core set. So think set mechanic is mostly unchanged, the champions, the traits, their abilities, mostly unchanged, and update modern systems, more novel updates from the systems perspective, so think augments, like items, everything. That's currently the direction we're in. We find that players, that's been the sweet spot. Like when we do player surveys, players enjoy being like, if they hear Remixed Rumble is coming back, they're expecting to mostly see Remixed Rumble and not being like, oh my gosh, this set has completely changed. Sometimes the set can feel completely different depending on how old it is, because just the items themselves, which have gone through a lot of evolution, adding augments, having artifact items, that can change the look and feel of original sets. But that's been the design space, so think like it's original plus is the current approach for revivals. And we'll continue to see as we see if players feel like we want to see completely different things, like we'll be watching the feedback and engagement in revivals to decide like which way to take the revivals there. But for now, I think this is the best way of, keep giving the nostalgia, delivering on nostalgia, but also adding novelty. Yeah, and for new sets, I think about, and we as a team talk about design space every now and again. I think it's important to acknowledge that design space is finite, and so this is part of why you'll see us employ strategies of revisiting mechanics or like doing reprints of units or similar things. Not that we're already running out of design space, but rather knowing the slower that we churn through those different like ideas, or more likely, we'll have a really cool idea, but we might say this is just not the right set for it, and we'll save it for some other theme or some other place where it's going to be a better fit. However, I think that finite design space is still very, very large. I can imagine TFT, I don't want to exaggerate too much, but literally having like hundreds of sets. I think we can go wild. We found huge success in both reusing skin lines, but in a totally different way, and that being well received. Or I'll even say when we were first talking about the music set, we were a little bit worried that it might be kind of niche and not very broadly appealing. I think we were very wrong about that. But I think we can keep pushing into more and more risky territory.
And then there's some various tailwinds that help, right? Like we're still benefited by League of Legends, right? There's new champions, there's new skin lines, entire new thematics, all of that we just kind of like to pull in. And then, we found our own way to make our own characters and skins. So there's lots of creative energy. We have a large backlog of different set thematics that we're usually not struggling to figure out the next set thematic. We're usually struggling to pick from a giant list to figure out which one's going to be the right fit. So I think there's a lot of TFT to come.
Yeah, we're working like so far in advance. We already know like probably like 3-4 sets in advance what the thematics are. Can't talk about it, but we know it.
Awesome. Thank you. Good to hear it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi. I really love reading the set learning articles that come out at the end of the set. They're probably one of my favorite pieces of regularly recurring dev blogs. I was wondering, how does the team incorporate this into is there a formalized way of incorporating those writings into the design and engineering space, and whether the design team generally has high confidence that they won't make a decision that will create the same problem that was already addressed in a past learning article?
Yeah, so those are definitely a part of our process, and they're arguably even more internalized and upstream than those articles would kind of let on, right? Like, by the time we've published one of those articles, we've already probably had thorough discussions about those different problems, and if not applied, at least attempted to apply them to future sets. That can still be a little bit challenging if there's something that weird happened towards the end of a set that we're like, okay, we're not going to be able to fully change this. Like back in the day, this probably would have been our forever problems with assassins of we know assassins are really fun. There's some good stuff. There's some bad stuff, and we started to try different things. So yeah, it's integrated into our process, and something that we want to hold to it. Learnings aren't always one directional, right? Sometimes you'll think you'll have learned something, and I bet if you look back at some of those old articles, you'll be like, actually, they kind of took a different direction because of some other learning that came along the way, and the game has just changed a lot. But yeah, something we talk about a lot.
Thank you.
Hello. So I am one of those hyper-casual players. I play the dumbest comps that I can.
Nice.
In original Remix Rumble, I forced punk every game.
Yes.
So I've been looking forward to the revival, and it seems like I'm kind of the audience for it. But I also almost exclusively play Double Up. Any thoughts on that with revivals, either in the current or future?
Yeah, I mean, I also, as a Double Up lover, I also would love to play Revival with Double Ups. I think the reality there is that we just need to think about the full global community. So currently, when you look at Double Up, also within smaller regions, we don't want to split the queues so much, because TFT already has ranked, normals, talkers, Double Up. And then we have revivals, so then it can go up to 6, 7 queues at a time. We'll have multiple modes. So we want to be, one thing we really care about a lot is queue times. And so there could be a day, there probably could be a day. We just have to keep monitoring because we want to be sensitive. I think in NA, of course, that would be awesome. But in some smaller regions, it's just gonna make the experience not the best experience for players. It's it'll be very frustrating for some players in much smaller regions. So unfortunately, that's the current thinking. But I don't know. Let's try to see what happens. Fingers crossed.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, if anyone remembers the very early days of TFT when you used to have the massive queue time, and then to even get into the client, and then once you're in, it's a massive long queue to even get into game.
Yeah, we want to try to avoid that for set revivals, and so we're doing one queue for now.
That was our last question. Katie, Christina, and Whitty are going to hang out in the back. We have been asked to head that way if you have any final questions or you want to say hi to the group. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.